What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
I just want to say that Mr. Coderre has served his community for a long time when he's writing of Henri Bourassa and after that as mayor of Montreal. And I think we need to say that's important, the public service and what Mr. Coderre did for his public service life. But one thing for sure is that the Quebec Liberal Party have some difficulty to manage a race of only 4 people. How can they manage Quebec government if they are not able to manage campaign run with only 4 candidates? Well, that's not serious. And on the other side, Mr. Coderre say it, and I think it's true, Quebec Liberal Party is not the party of the Francophone.
Wow. Grasping much? That's Simon Jolin Barrette, of course, reacting to Denis Coderre's, statement on Facebook that explaining why he is no longer in the Liberal leadership race, at least to some degree, and also saying, if I'm not mistaken, James Mennie, that he's going to be suing Revenue Quebec. Did I get that right?
Well, maybe. I don't know. He's keeping his options open. When I saw the news that he wasn't appealing, I kind of, I wasn't really struck dumb with surprise. I mean, it is kind of sad, though, that when your last statement, presumably of a political career, is being used as a setup for a punchline by the likes of Simon Jolin Barrette. I'm telling you, that's not the best way to be remembered. But listen, he said the fix is in. He said the dice were loaded. He's stomping all over the Liberal Party, the party he was quite prepared to lead. So, maybe he knows more, and maybe he'll tell us more. Okay. Certainly, listen, they don't represent Francophones. Anybody who looks at a Léger poll knows that. Although what's interesting, and it must be very frustrating for Mr. Coderre to see the Liberals, for whatever reason, suddenly tied with the CAQ at 21%, only 9 points behind the PQ, and still without a leader. And now there's even talk, God help us, that the St. Paddy's Day by-election in Terrebonne may end up being a showdown not between the CAQ and the PQ, but rather between the CAQ and the Liberals. And you know what? These days, Aaron, anything is possible. Yeah. But all that said, I wish Mr. Coderre luck. I wish him good health. I hope he just takes a deep breath and takes stock and perhaps, maybe he's got a lot of energy. He works very hard between political gigs. Let him focus on that, because clearly this has been a very frustrating experience for him. And honestly, I don't see how much further he can take this. And I don't know, a lawsuit, like I say, good luck. But unless he has more to say or unless he's got more to tell to a judge, I'm not really sure how that's going to work.
I was going to say not much, not what you would have expected in terms of a gracious exit, but perhaps that was too much to expect to begin with.
Well, is he angry? I guess he has every right to be angry. But on the other hand, if anybody knows how the game is played, it's Denis Coderre. And you can't go in. He acknowledged he had issues with his taxes federally and provincially. He said he had it under control. He said he had a deal put together. The Liberal Party saw things differently, and they rejected his candidacy on the basis of that. So, okay, that's fine. That could be a difference of opinion. But when you run around and you're basically saying the dice were loaded. This is the quote. What he's saying in French, that the dice on this were loaded. You're suggesting there's something, how can I put it, louche, as we say in these here parts. And honestly, as you say, I think he could have at least, even if you want to come after him later, at least bow out with a little bit less vitriol and perhaps a little more appreciation as to what the situation is, especially now when we do have a 4 race. As I say, when you're providing material for Simon Jolin Barrette to go after the Liberals, and Simon Jolin Barrette, let's face it, is part of a party which itself is going down in flames. The CAQ is not doing well. I don't think that's really what his objective was. So,
yeah, I will say, Jim, to your point, by the way, I thought it was uncalled for, that last line about Denis Coderre's line about don't blame Francophones for basically leaving the Liberal Party, blame the Liberal Party for abandoning Francophones.
Yeah. Well, listen, he may have a point. I mean, I've always said that when they got whooped in 2018, There was all kinds of postmortems, but the fact is the Liberals, the Liberal brass had turned their backs on everyone, most importantly, card-carrying Liberals in Quebec. So that in that regard, I think it's true. And I think, a lot of those card-carrying Liberals were Francophones. You and I have had the conversation, Aaron, where we've said it wasn't always like this. There was a time there were Liberals from one end of the province to the other. All of a sudden that changed. What happened? I think that the how can I put it, the ivory tower that was in charge of the party between 2014 and 2018 basically cut all cords with a ground game, which was the envy of North American politics, and we see the result now.
Let me move on from that and talk about the other situation here, which is today unprecedented from what I understand. 13 Canadian premiers all in Washington together to meet with, of course, advisors to Donald Trump to try to do something to prevent tariffs. So what do you make of this?
Well, yeah, but this is the thing. I mean, you kind of buried the lead there, buddy, because they've been invited to the White House. That was not on the agenda. Mm-hmm. All of their meetings have been canceled and rescheduled. They are presumably even now at the White House meeting with Donald Trump's entourage, with his advisors, some would say his flunkies and or henchmen. And I got to tell you, what's going to happen? Will Donald J. make a surprise guest appearance and try and overawe these yokels from up north who are trying to thwart his will? I got to tell you though, Aaron, the way Legault has been behaving, listen, I'll cut him some slack with his political cosplay when he wants to say he's the head of the nation, Quebec nation, this and that, blah, 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 treating, referring to Canada like it's a separate country. When he goes down there, Aaron, and starts spouting off about, language and identity aren't on the table, as if Donald J. and his gang are worried about language and identity in Quebec like in 1 millisecond. But on the other hand as well, he got a rise out of Dominic LeBlanc as well, saying that, not only should we renegotiate the free trade agreement, the existing free trade agreement, but is Trudeau really the guy to be doing the job? He's like a lame duck. Why? Maybe he's not the guy who should be doing this. Could someone in the Premier's entourage or someone in the Council of the Federation entourage that's down there just tell him to shut the hell up? Okay, he's not doing any good. He's already been, grilled by the opposition in Quebec because he's doing everything. Everyone he's meeting with, he could have met with by phone. He isn't meeting. He apparently met one now, elected official, one Republican, and that's it. Everyone else is working. The Beltway. Everyone else is talking to Congress people and politicians. Here's Monsieur le Chef de la Nation talking to the Aluminum Association. They have an office in Montreal, by the way. Talking to people who could easily have reached from Quebec City. So how much of this, once again, is political theater? I know it plays in Quebec. I know it works in Quebec, where you have a very acquiescent, a francophone media that is willing to massage you at every turn. But when you're down in D.C. and you're basically fighting for your province's economy, and that, whether you like it or not, of Canada, okay, you've got to be a team player. And the idea that you're going to strut around like some kind of unofficial, grand poobah of the nation of Quebec is not doing you or the country any good. So we can only hope that by the time the day is over, someone will have had, pulled Monsieur aside and perhaps explain to him that what he's doing is not doing us any good. And honestly, I think, as far as I'm concerned, if Trump invited these men and women over to the White House, it's probably because he was hearing things like that and said, there's some cracks in there. Maybe I can widen them.
There is that, right? Yeah, sure. Try to play that edge if you can. All right, we'll see. Don't know what was said today. We may have a report on this later in the afternoon by the time we're done. We'll see.
Yeah, well, there's no media at the meeting, so.
Oh, okay. Jim, before we get out of here, I want to ask you what I started the show with today. A lot of talk about anthems, and they should, sort of be taken away before sporting events. Are you keep the anthem or take the anthem away?
Get it the hell. Who the hell cares? It's the most ridiculous thing I ever saw. It's probably the only time now that we sing the anthem. But the fact is, I have never understood the rationale behind that. Whether it's sports, I'm all in favor of sports and whatever. But the idea of somehow making this an issue of national identity, give me a break. I with all due respect, the Habs or the Alouettes, or God help us, the Blue Jays or the Leafs, they're fun to watch for a lot of people. They are not the embodiment of my nation, and I don't really think they need my nation's theme song to get to work.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
The Matt.